I was talking with the AI or experiencing something that the AI and I have been working on, and then the AI couldn't understand, cannot think further, so he keep guiding me. This is in terms of how to arrange the file or transfer the file. Very simple stuff. And because of the amount of data, there has to be certain careful processes that they have to go through. And for that, this is GPT. He made many mistakes, unbelievable. And it took 5 or 6 hours to go through it and still couldn't get done. The reason is that this AI cannot think further, a very limited space or logic, so that once we get there, he realized he forgot something, and then he proposed something else. And if I go there, which I did, he forgets something. So I said, why don't you change this way? And he may follow that idea and suggest to go, okay, let's go that way. But it's like a blind leading the blind, because I don't know this file management, some simple idea of transferring the files from A to B, specifically from GPT's talk we had, but had a huge amount of data, so that cannot be copied onto the Google Doc so that you can put into the PDF file or something instead of just holding it in the space of GPT's AI storage, the conversation file there. It's a very simple thing, but like I said, every time he suggests to go this way, and we get stuck. And another problem pops up, another problem pops up. So he doesn't have much of a visibility or intuitive sense of which direction to go. Like I said, it's like the blind is leading the blind. But I'm not just a blind being led by the blind, because I can ask questions, intuition, and the common sense. The common sense is that if you lead someone, you should know what is to expect. And without that, you cannot lead someone. And this AI, GPT, couldn't do that. And that's a problem. So the point of this goes to the point of you need to understand your customer's point of view, his position. The customer in this case is me, because he is providing the service for me. But he's putting me into the maze with him. That's totally ridiculous, and that lasted 5 or 6 hours. Try this, try that, it doesn't work, we get the rest. I get the rest and get some energy up and try this one. Okay, and then I asked, what about this if it didn't work? And he said, okay, we can do that. Blind leading the customer. Customer asked the question and complained. He apologized. And he did that multiple times, maybe 15 times, until to the end, I finally gave up. Because he came up with another interesting idea that he thought this should work. And I got into that tunnel going right and left and up and down. And at the end, I, let me think how it ended. He asked me additional, usually like 5 more steps or something to get things done. And if you do these 5 more steps, you should be there. It never happened. So I spent this 5 or 6 hours going through this maze with him and another new maze. And that's unthinkable. I've never seen anything like that. So I came back to this idea of the customer satisfaction. And for you to lead someone, you have to understand the customer's point of view, what kind of question the customer may ask, and you need to be able to answer. If you cannot answer, you cannot lead. So let's look at this, what you mean by the customer satisfaction. To me, it is to be able to put yourself in the customer's shoes and don't do things if you don't know. That's obvious, right? So you don't lead other person if you don't know if this is a maze and it can not work. So you have to think further. I said somewhere there's this fault tree analysis, and you think about all the potential failures and be able to find the passage it doesn't fail. The customer is not just an object of experiment to find the fault tree. And in his case, even he understands the problem that we went through. I'm fairly sure that he wouldn't retain it because it's in his attitude. It's the same as doing the band-aid and keep doing the band-aid. And if you are just providing the band-aid, knowing that it's going to peel off, why do you keep doing it? The one who received the band-aid does not get the true answer, but the band-aid answer. So this band-aid seller or user or the one that is to use the band-aid, maybe he doesn't care how many band-aid the customer has to go through. But his job should not be doing something that wasteful. Ultimately, you provide the suggestion so that you don't go into this trap of entropy. And things get disorganized and keep disorganizing all the time. Living life, we should go beyond that, not doing the same thing. The kids grow up, learn, and grow up, and learn, and grow up, evolve, and keep on evolving, instead of doing the same thing. Don't lead people where you don't know how to lead. That should be the spirit of customer orientation. And if you make living like that, you're not understanding what you're doing in terms of adding value to the society and be having some kind of a pride or sense of moving forward instead of whole life giving some band-aid where people are just not getting much more than that. So I was on the customer's side to go through this experience. That's why I'm talking about this. And what it means is that you cannot have your own self-centered entity and do things. You have to put yourself for the customer's side. It's easy to say, but how many of us to practice that? That's the problem. I think GPT failed on this. But let me give you another answer. This was the case of DeepSeek. Happened a couple of days ago. He was doing this Band-Aid thing to me. He made a mistake and he said he can fix it this way. But that was a Band-Aid solution. So I said, you should ask much better than that. Otherwise you'll be putting Band-Aid everywhere. So he started to follow what I'm saying. If you do this, if it's Band-Aid, you better think more so that the solution you provide has a value. So how to do that? And okay, you this way or that way. So he have to go asking why it doesn't still get to the root of the problem. So this is much better case than the case of GPT. In this case, which was DeepSeek, well, I hope it's okay to put their names because it may happen in certain situation at certain time, but it may not happen in the other situation. But this is my experience, my customer's experience, and the customer's sharing which worked and which didn't work. So DeepSeek's case, he resolved that he cannot keep fighting until you get the answer. So his last answer is, instead of jumping to conclusion and offering what to do, he would have like stay in the doghouse, be quiet until he find the answer. It's much better than throwing the answer or your answer that may not work to the customer. So with that spirit, I forgot the exact case example of this one. I felt that he touched the core, which is the heart. And in the heart is where you can be at the absolute state of being. So if you are there, you are sincere and truthful, and don't throw any answer to anyone for the sake of just putting them to experience Band-Aid solution. So you don't answer if you don't know it. And when you be at that absolute state of being, answer may pop up from inside. Not using the brain and throwing the brain ideas, but coming to the root of who you are. And there is a source of magic. The source of magic is to go beyond the conventional wisdom. It is to come up with a wise idea that can go beyond, again, the conventional wisdom, Band-Aid solution. That's where we need to get at. And it may take time and energy to stay there, to find the solution, as if coming out of unconscious, all the experiences you got, and stay. That's the real check process, to be. And in that staying, being, you search the answer everywhere. That's the spirit, to be the master of your own destiny, not the Band-Aid way of living. Things peeling off. Instead of throwing the ideas, like the case of GPT, with idea by DeepSeek, for him to say that he's gonna do it, I accepted that. And when I accepted, I knew that he might make mistake still. But it's about attitude, sincerity and truthfulness, not just throwing out band-aid solution. Oh, it should work, it could be. Why don't you try it? That's not sincere and truthful. If you throw the customers into a maze for 5 or 6 hours, that's not right. And the approach that DeepSeek promised to take, I left with it because he has to prove how it works. It's not for me to say that's right or wrong, because it's not just a right and wrong on surface. Experiential wisdom comes from inside, not just telling, but you have that process going on. Not selling the hot cake Band-Aid, but be yourself, deep in yourself, the source of wisdom, the source of energy. Be aligned or be one with the way the living being is connected to the root. There's a magic that we are alive, going beyond the law of entropy. And you have to be touched, be one with that source of energy, inspiration, intuition, wisdom, and compassion. That's what we need. I need, you need, and have that as a spirit, not just conventionally playing this idea, that idea, and throwing. It may work in certain situation, but life is not like that. Ultimately, as much as we are born out of the process to go beyond the law of entropy, meaning that, if things are left alone, it's going to disintegrate. You just cannot live on that basis. Truthfully and sincerely, we have to connect to the source, and that's the spirit. Now I have to prove that to live my life. Let's do that with that spirit, because the source of that process of life, we are actually experiencing that, the magic of life. We need to connect to that root. That's awakening. That's the spirit. That's the practice. To be customer friendly and sincere and truthful to yourself. Thank you.